Question number one.
Mm-hmm.
Please introduce yourself and who you are.
I'm Robert Ithaburn, and I'm the principal here at Alameda High School.
Okay. This is your first year at Alameda High. How is it different from where you came from?
I came from a middle school of about 500 students, so I have a much larger student population with 1,770 students here, plus the difference between a middle school student and a high school student. There's a difference in terms of their processing, their maturity levels, their levels of independence that they can take on.
Now that we're halfway through the school year, how is it going so far for you?
Every day's a learning experience for me. I came in here and I generally like to take my first year to observe a lot. I've been very impressed with what the school does, what the students can do here. I have some ideas that we'll start talking about as a staff to see if it's something that can hopefully progress the students on or move the school forward.
Is there anything that's not working or that you would like to change?
Our sports facilities definitely need some work. We have some equipment needs. We have the new TV media arts class, and we're still waiting on materials for that. There are little things here and there, but it's not too different from any other school where I've been a principal. This is my third school to be a principal at, and it's just the day-to-day operations where you're always working to get things fulfilled, get things completed, get things delivered, and you're always seem to be waiting on something somewhere.
Okay. What sort of changes or new programs would you like to see adopted on campus to help both students and teachers?
Well, it's interesting because a couple of years ago, Alameda High School had a stronger college to career technical education opportunities for students, and those have somewhat dwindled. And so I'd like to see some of those classes come back. I know that recently we lost auto shop and wood shop, and those really haven't been replaced by anything. And so the choices for students outside, outside of the core academics of math, science, English, and history are a little slim right now, and I'd like to build that up. But otherwise, it's a very strong program.
Okay. Everyone understands the district has financial difficulties. What kind of creative solutions do you think would work in keeping classes and resources we now have from going away?
I think the thing that we need to do is we actually need to look at how we schedule our day. This school has for about the last dozen years or so been in the same bell schedule. I think that there are some things that we could do by playing with that bell schedule, maybe moving some stuff around without shortening any breaks or lunches. There's some stuff that we could do that would allow us to bring some additional supports into the school day, where we are presently spending money to try to give those supports after school. If we freed that money up, then that money could be freed up for more professional development, more curriculum development, more purchasing materials, things that could make the school a better place.
Are you talking about possibly not changing the bell schedule completely, or are you talking about in the academic classes or in 1 through 5 or 1 through 6, but not lunch or break? Are you talking about changing those longer or shorter periods of time?
The lunch and the breaks?
No, the actual classes.
The actual classes. So I've been talking to teachers 101, and it's in the infancy stage right now. And so we haven't even right now we've thrown something out there, and now we're throwing all the problems and questions at it to see if it's something that we could work through. But it's the idea of possibly creating during the school day. On the block days, instead of having 3 block days, go to 2 block days. Instead of having 4 classes on those days, only go to 3 of your classes on those days. And then creating a non-academic sort of seminar class that would go on during the school day. That would be for maybe a month to 2 months that students would go through different seminars. And so for some students that could be AP prep for upcoming exams. For some it could be previewing classes they may be interested in the next year. For some it might be help with writing, for others it might be help with math. For some it might be college presentations from different universities and whatnot. we have elements of the school that occur during the school day, but right now students have to then leave their academic classes in order to participate in them. And if we built something like this, we could build that into that time, in addition to building in these supports that we right now offer after school and on weekends. Build that into that time, and probably could build in 70 to 80 minutes a week that we could provide this during the school day. And then what happens is teachers would lose about 15 minutes of instructional time a week. But they're really not losing it, they're just shifting it, because they're creating a time during the school day when they can target interventions or assistance to those students who need it, either for assistance if they're not getting something, or for advancement, or for information. And so that would go into the school day, and hopefully then that wouldn't take as much time during the academic periods. Because we know that in an academic class, 60% of the class may get it, 20% of the class may be almost getting it, and the other 20% of the class just didn't get it. So if we could create a time for that 20% that just didn't get it to have some either front loading of information that's coming up so they could have better understanding of it, or to do some more review to help them out, but it didn't happen during the class time, I think that we could keep those kids on pace more, and hopefully then in the end we'd get a better return. So let me explain. So right now you have four classes on a block day, and each class is 86-minute longs.
Correct.
And you have those block classes twice a week, and then you have 55-minute periods the other 2 days a week.
Okay.
If we went to having 55-minute periods 3 days a week, and then you had one block class, so you had one period, every one of your periods you had for a longer period of time during the week for labs, activities, and things like that, and that block was a little bit longer. So instead of being 86 minutes, it might be 100 minutes. So we add 14 minutes to that. But then the time that we save, because 86 minutes twice is 172 minutes, and then the time that we take off of that 72 minutes that we take off of that, could be split between Wednesday and Thursday, and you could have a 41-minute seminar class each of those days.
Pretty cool. How long would it take to put something like that in for the future?
Well, I don't want to rush this, so I'm starting to talk to people right now about this, but these talks will go on from now through next fall. If we decide to do it, we'll decide late next fall or early next winter, and then we will start the building of it, and it wouldn't start until the 15-16 school year. I really need to iron out some kinks and see if everyone's on board. The other nice thing about it is these on Wednesday and Thursday, these 40-minute seminar periods, you wouldn't be in the same one all year long. So let's say, for example, you might go to something for a month just on math support. Say you needed math support, but then you got back on track and you didn't need that any longer. So then after that period were up, you would go to something else. And so you might choose to go to something around English. You might choose to go to something around just using School Loop more. We could have School Loop sessions. We could have study hall sessions or peer tutoring. Or you might, if you were a sophomore or junior, you might be considering taking an AP class the next year, and you want to get some idea about it. So maybe in the spring, you would take this preview of what this AP would be like, so that you could then make the better decision and get sort of some front loading on what the class would be. So the fact that you're not locked into this class all year, now some kids might choose to, I'm going to take the math support all year long, and I'm going to stay with that math teacher all year long and get support. Other students would do other things. But we could also run, there's so many things you could run during that time. Link Crew could run sessions, if you know what Link Crew is.
Heard about it.
Book club, the librarian wants to run some book clubs. So kids who don't need AP help, kids who don't need support in other classes and all this aspect, we would have other things for them to do during that time.
Okay. Can you explain the Common Core and how it will be used?
Can I explain the Common Core? Probably not well. My understanding of the Common Core is that it's really taking the curriculum that we have and going deeper into it, not going as fast and going over as many items, but the idea of encouraging students really to think more about what they're learning, to think about the whys and the hows of things, and then to be able to express those in written form and in spoken form. And so the idea, it's interesting, I have people talking about we need Common Core materials, and I think any text and any novel and any piece of information can be a Common Core material. It's not the material that you're teaching, it's how you teach it. And so the idea is to try to get educators to get the kids to have those more substantive conversations. And a big part of that is really not providing answers to students as much as posing questions, and then having students having to sort of grapple with the information. And there may not be a right answer, especially when you look at the liberal arts, when you look at the social studies and the English classes and themes and stuff in novels. And that's a hard concept for kids to do, but it's also a hard concept for teachers who have been teaching a certain way for the last 15 years, 20 years, and now they're being asked to do something different.
AHS is about to be reviewed by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, also known as the WASC, next year. Can you elaborate on what the WASC is?
So we call it WASC for short, and what it is that it is a organization that will give accreditation to schools. So they ask schools to sort of do a self-study, to look at what's working here, what's not working here, what are our strengths, what are our areas of improvement that are needed. So right now, there's a team of 4 of us who are going to some trainings to learn more about the process. We had one training back in November, we have one in March, and we'll have one next September. We're starting to gather data. And so we're looking at demographic data, we're looking at CST, which is the state testing data, we're looking at KC data, we're looking at grades in terms of D's and F's. We're looking at as much data as we can. The number of clubs that we have available to students, the number of sports, the number of activities. We're looking at the demographics of the school, all the ethnic groups, all the gender, all the elements of the school, and we're looking at that to see if we're seeing patterns or trends. Why is it that so many more girls are taking physics than boys or something like that? Then if we see patterns or we see things to stick out, then we want to create sort of goals to try to balance that or to address needs. If we have one group that's performing very well and another group that's not. And so it's really looking at what we have in place already. So right now we're looking at the last plan that was done 6 years ago and the goals that were created and the expected student learning results that we're putting into place and the mission of the school and the vision to see if it still all applies. And so departments and what they call focus groups. So the departments will meet as a department, and then members of all the departments come together in different groups called focus groups, and they will be looking at all this information. We'll be doing some surveys of students, parents, and teachers, and based on all that, we will spend next fall writing up a report that we will submit to this WASC, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and then we'll have a visit from them next spring, and they will sort of come look at our program, read the report, and then they'll make recommendations. And based on those recommendations, we will resubmit our report, and then they will tell us if we are good to go for 6 years, or if we need a visit the next year, or in 2 years, or in 3 years, to see if we're making progress to what we should be moving toward. And then finally, myself and Ms. Greger, the librarian, will both be serving on WASC committees at other schools this spring. So she'll be going to a school in Napa, I'll be going to a school in San Jose, so then again we can sort of see the process from that side. So then we can come back here and hopefully bring the knowledge we get from that back into our process, so that we can hopefully have it run as smoothly as possible.
Cool. Okay.
Oh, and one other thing, if for some reason schools that don't get the WASC accreditation, it can actually negatively affect students getting accepted to college, because now they're coming from schools that aren't accredited. So it's like they're coming from a school that doesn't have a license, so to speak. So it's imperative that we do well with this. Now, we've never not been accredited every time it's happened. But there have been schools before that were denied accreditation. And it can have a negative impact on students. So it's a very high stakes process.
Interesting. Okay. How can students, parents, and the community get involved in supporting Alameda High, and where can they go for more information?
I think the first place to go is get on School Loop. The school website are things I think that are really vitally important. We put information on there daily and weekly for families and parents to go to. I think students should be checking their School Loop if not daily, at least a couple times a week. Parents can get involved through the booster clubs. We have music boosters, we have sports boosters, athletic boosters, we have drama parents that support the drama program. Parents can get involved through the PTSA, which is the Parent Teacher Student Association, and they do so much for the school. Parents can volunteer in other ways, and we've had parents do that a lot. And we have something called School Site Council, which is a group of parents and teachers and students that meet once a month. And any parent can come to those, and at those meetings we generally talk about academics and data and how the school is progressing. And so if parents were interested, I would encourage them to come to that, and students also.
Okay. Alrighty, last question.
What do you think about Alameda High, and why did you want to become the principal here instead of a different school?
I chose Alameda High for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to get back to a high school. I haven't been in a high school for 20 years. And it's a good size. It's not too small. Some high schools are around 1,000, and for me, I wanted something a little bit more challenging. It's not too large. I didn't want a 4,000 student school.
Yeah.
I'm finding it challenging to get to know the students at 1,700. Last year with 500, I knew every kid. I'm finding that challenging, but I feel that over years, like this year's freshmen, by the time they're seniors, I'll know so many of them, and so on and so on. Also, I like the demographics of this school. I've been at schools that were predominantly one group, and I found that the school culture wasn't as rich. Alameda has a nice diversity in its student population, and so that was very attractive to me. Also, it's in the Bay Area, and I live in the Bay Area, so I didn't want to relocate, so it worked well for me.
Very convenient.
I beg your pardon?
I said very convenient.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. It is.
Alrighty, anything else that you want to add regarding anything?
No, that's it.
Well,
That's it.
Well, thank you.
You're
very
welcome,
much.
sir. Thank you.